It began with a wedding invitation that was never answered, and ended in flame, blood, and undeath. This is the story of Ranser's War, one of the most brutal and transformative conflicts in the history of High Rock. A war not born of conquest or revenge, but of pride. Let's go back to the year 2E, 566. In the northern kingdom of Rivenspire, King Ranser of Shornhelm ruled with ambition and arrogance. He had clawed his way to power in a bitter succession dispute after the death of King Hurlbert, narrowly defeating the claim of the young Prince Filgen Montclair. But Ranser was not content to be merely a regional ruler. He had greater aspirations he hoped to secure through marriage. When Emeric of Cumberland was elevated to the throne of Wayrest, Ranser proposed a political union, the hand of his daughter, Princess Rael, in marriage. Emeric considered it, until he traveled south and met Princess Mariah, daughter of King Faharajad of Sentinel. She would become his bride instead, and that decision would send all of High Rock into war. Ranser, furious and humiliated, saw the rejection not as politics, but as betrayal. He withdrew from the court of Wayrest and began secretly gathering an army. In Last Seed 2E 566, Ranser struck. With elite cavalry, the Oldgate Lancers, at the front, his forces swept south from Shornhelm with terrifying speed. They razed their way through Alcair and Menavia before appearing suddenly at the gates of Wayrest. The city was unprepared. But as fate would have it, King Emeric arrived just in time, leading the Lion Guard and his personal house troops. Clad in no armor, wielding the legendary Orichalc scalpel, Emeric led the charge himself. A thunderstorm erupted. Lightning terrified the Lancer horses. Ranser's vanguard broke and fled, and Wayrest's gates slammed shut behind the defenders. The siege of Wayrest had begun. Ranser laid siege to Wayrest for months, his forces bolstered by mercenaries, nobles like House Montclair, and even the once loyal House Mornard from the Sistres archipelago. But Emeric's allies finally responded. Armies from Daggerfall, Camlorn, and Evermore marched to Wayrest's defense. Then came the turning point. A fleet of Alik'r warriors from Hammerfell, sent by King Faharajad, crossed the Iliac Bay and crushed Ranser's forces from the coast. The siege was broken. Ranser was forced to retreat north. And then, Emeric made a bold move. He sent his spy Zephrine Frey to find a rising young Orc chieftain. Kurog, son of Wrothgar, was fighting his own war in the snowy passes near Dragonstar. Emeric offered him a deal, aid in the war, and he would be granted a kingdom of his own, a new Orsinium. Kurog agreed. When the Orcs descended on Shornhelm, the city was left nearly defenseless. They burned it to the ground, a vengeance for the past Breton destruction of their homeland. Ranser returned to find his capital already in flames. Even his allies began to abandon him. House Tamrith, House Dorell, and eventually House Montclair all withdrew support. Ranser's remaining forces fled east, toward a bleak region known as Markwaston Moor, and prepared for one last stand. At Markwaston Moor, Ranser's army was surrounded, trapped between Breton, Redguard, and Orcish forces. The battle was a slaughter. Ranser barely escaped with a few loyal officers and retreated to a ruined tor, a lonely hilltop outside the ruins of Shornhelm. There, he declared his last stand. King Ranser doesn't retreat. This tor will stand forever. But the king's mind was unraveling. His general, Dathieu, begged him to surrender. But Ranser placed his faith in a ritual devised by his court mage, Rizel Jul. a dark magic ritual that required blood to succeed. Dathur, desperate to save his men, stabbed his king in the back. Ranser's blood hit the stone. That was the final ingredient. Ranser rose, undead and cursed, binding the souls of his loyal troops in undeath. Ranser's death ended the war, but the political landscape was forever changed. Wayrest and its allies emerged victorious. The Council of the North, formed from houses Tamriel, Dorell, and Montclair, ruled Rivenspire in Ranser's absence. House Mornard was punished severely, stripped of rank, land, and dignity in the Sisters. House Dufour, their rival, rose in their place. In the ashes of war, the Greater Daggerfall Covenant was born. Emeric was crowned High King of High Rock. Faharajad proclaimed himself High King of Hammerfell, and Kurog Gro-Bagrak was granted Wrothgar to build a new Orsinium, finally giving the Orcs a true homeland. But as for King Ranser, he became a cautionary tale, a madman in plays, a ghost ruling over cursed ruins, and a lesson etched in stone, that pride may crown a king, but it may also destroy him. This has been the tale of Ranser's war, one king's pride, and the rise of a covenant that would shake Tamriel